The scent of coffee in the morning used to be my favorite thing. Not just any coffee, but Sarah's coffee. She had this way of making it, strong but smooth, just the way I liked it. Every day, for almost 15 years, that smell had been the quiet, comforting overture to my day. Now, it just brings back a ghost. A sharp, phantom pang right behind my ribs, a reminder of everything I blew up. We built a life, Sarah and I. Not one of those whirlwind movie romance lives, but a steady, sturdy one. We met in college, undergrad. A little cheesy, actually. Both of us studying business, both ambitious, but with different kinds of drive. I was always the one pushing the envelope. She was the one making sure we didn't crash. She anchored me. After graduation, we moved to the suburbs, got an apartment above a bakery in a little town just outside the city, then a house, a real house, with a yard and a 2-car garage when we were 28. It was the American dream, or at least our version of it. Weekends spent doing yard work, summer evenings on the porch swing, winter nights curled up watching old movies with a roaring fire. We talked about kids, not with any urgency, but with a comfortable, someday kind of certainty. Our future felt solid, predictable in the best way. My job at Sterling & Reed, an advertising agency, was good. Account management. It paid the bills, bought the house, afforded us vacations to places like Charleston and the Grand Canyon. Sarah was a school counselor, working with high school kids, which she loved. She came home with stories, sometimes heartbreaking, sometimes hilarious, and I'd listen, offering my 2 cents, mostly just happy to be her sounding board. We were a team. That's what everyone said. Our friends envied our stability, our easy rhythm. And for a long time, I did too. I genuinely thought I was one of the lucky ones. Then Emily walked into a pitch meeting. It was a Tuesday, late fall. The air was crisp outside, leaves turning all those incredible fiery reds and golds. But inside, the conference room was sterile and gray. We were trying to land a big tech client, a startup called Infidelity, and Emily was their head of marketing. She wasn't like anyone I'd worked with before. She was sharp, quick, articulate, but with this underlying current of humor that just fizzed. Her eyes, an incredible shade of green, missed nothing. She challenged every assumption, every statistic we threw at her, but always with a smile that softened the blow. I remember feeling a jolt when she walked in, not just because she was attractive, but because she felt like a force, a storm front moving into my perfectly calm, predictable weather system. Over the next few weeks, as we worked on the campaign, I found myself drawn to her. It started subtly. Longer emails, not just about work, but about ideas, books, even a shared frustration about the awful coffee machine in our office. Then it was texts. Late at night, after Sarah had already fallen asleep beside me, I'd slip out of bed, go to the living room, and tap away, a guilty thrill coiling in my stomach. I told myself it was professional, just networking. She was stimulating. She made me think in new ways. She had this energy, this passion for her work, that I realized, with a quiet dread, I hadn't felt in my own life in years. Sarah, meanwhile, was focused on her students, on planning our 10th anniversary trip, on deciding whether to paint the guest bathroom a light blue or a muted green. She talked about our future, our retirement plans, the possibility of fostering a dog. All good, wholesome, sensible things. Things I should have been excited about. But my mind was increasingly occupied by Emily's witty remarks, her insightful observations, the way she'd laugh at my jokes with a genuine, uninhibited joy that felt like a splash of cold water to my face. The first time we crossed a line, it wasn't even physical. It was a dinner after a particularly grueling day of revisions. The whole team was there initially, but one by one, people peeled off. It was just me and Emily left at the bar of this trendy downtown spot. The lights were low, the music a soft thrum. We were talking about our lives, not just work. She told me about growing up in Arizona, about her dream of starting her own business someday, about a bad breakup she'd just gotten over. I found myself opening up in ways I hadn't with Sarah in years. I talked about feeling stuck, about the quiet hum of dissatisfaction that had started to permeate my days, a feeling I hadn't even realized was there until Emily's vibrancy highlighted its absence. Her hand brushed mine as she reached for her drink. A tiny spark, almost imperceptible, but it lingered. My stomach twisted. I felt a surge of adrenaline mixed with a wave of shame so profound it almost buckled my knees. I went home that night, slid into bed next to Sarah, and felt like a complete fraud. Her warmth against my back, her soft breathing, usually a comfort, now felt like a suffocating weight. I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying Emily's laugh, the way her eyes crinkled at the corners, the intensity of our conversation. I told myself it was just friendship, just a deep connection. But deep down, I knew it was something else, something dangerous. The affair, when it finally started, was less a conscious decision and more a slow, insidious slide. It felt like walking on a slippery slope, knowing I should stop, but unable to find the traction. It was a business trip to San Diego, a big industry conference. Sterling and Reed had a booth. InnovateX was launching a new product. Sarah had been excited for me, telling me to enjoy the sun, maybe even get some golf in. She packed my favorite shirts, kissed me goodbye at the door, her lips warm and familiar. Emily was there too, naturally. We spent days in meetings, evenings at client dinners.
The energy between us was electric, unspoken but palpable. One night, after a particularly successful presentation, we found ourselves alone on the hotel rooftop bar, the city lights twinkling below, the ocean breeze cool against our skin. We talked for hours, fueled by expensive cocktails and the exhilaration of the day. She looked incredible, the city glow reflecting in her green eyes. I remember thinking, this is it. This is the moment. My heart was thudding against my ribs, a frantic drumbeat. "Mark," she said, her voice a little softer than usual, "you're a really good guy." I just looked at her, my throat tight. I felt anything but good. She leaned in, just slightly, and her lips found mine. It wasn't a gentle kiss. It was hungry, desperate, like two people who'd been holding their breath for too long, finally exhaling. The world tilted. All the guilt, all the rationalizations, all the years with Sarah, they just evaporated in that moment. There was only Emily and the overwhelming sensation of being alive, truly alive, in a way I hadn't felt in years. We went to her room. I barely remember the walk, just a blur of hallways, my hand clasped tightly in hers. The details are hazy now, mercifully, just a raw, overwhelming flood of sensation, a feverish intimacy that felt both forbidden and utterly essential. When I woke up in her bed the next morning, the sunlight streaming through the blinds, reality crashed down on me with the force of a tidal wave. The shame was immediate, suffocating. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, feeling the weight of my betrayal pressing down on me. Sarah, my sweet, trusting Sarah, what had I done? Emily stirred beside me, stretched and smiled. A small, contented smile. My heart sank. This wasn't a mistake that could be easily erased. This was a choice. A terrible, life-altering choice. I mumbled something about an early meeting, dressed quickly, my movements clumsy and furtive. I saw the flash of hurt in her eyes as I practically bolted out the door, but I couldn't deal with it. I couldn't deal with anything. I just needed to escape, to breathe, to figure out how to put myself back together. The double life began then, a sickeningly intricate dance of lies and half-truths. I told Sarah the conference was great, productive, that I missed her. I bought her a cheesy souvenir keychain from the airport gift shop. I kissed her, held her, tried to act normal, all the while feeling a cold, dark pit forming in my stomach. Every touch from her, every loving glance was a fresh stab of guilt. But I didn't stop. That's the part that truly haunts me. I didn't stop. I tried, initially. I tried to distance myself from Emily. I sent shorter emails, avoided one-on-one meetings, but she sought me out. She'd text me, innocent at first, then more suggestive. The pull was too strong. The thrill, the illicit excitement, the feeling of being wanted in a new, intoxicating way. It was an addiction. We started meeting for lunch, then discreet dinners, then late nights. Always carefully chosen places, away from our usual haunts, away from anyone who might know us. The secrecy added to the thrill in a perverse way. We'd invent elaborate stories for our spouses. She was married too, though she told me she was separated, which I clung to as a flimsy excuse for my behavior. I told Sarah I was working late, that a big project demanded extra hours. I used my work phone for text with Emily, a burner for calls. I became a master of deception. My personality started to shift. At home, I was withdrawn, irritable. Sarah noticed. She'd ask if I was okay, if work was too much. I'd snap at her, tell her I was fine, just stressed. She'd look at me with those worried, loving eyes, and I'd feel a fresh wave of self-loathing. I started resenting her questions, her attempts to connect, because they only highlighted my duplicity. I started seeing her as naive, as someone who couldn't possibly understand the complexities of my world, the new me that Emily seemed to awaken. It was a monstrous thought, a way to justify my actions, to make her seem less deserving of my loyalty. With Emily, I was lighter, funnier, more spontaneous. We went to jazz clubs, tried new restaurants, hiked trails I'd never known existed. She challenged me intellectually, made me feel vibrant and alive. She listened to my complaints about work, about feeling trapped, with an empathy that felt incredibly validating. She made me feel seen, truly seen, for all the parts of me that I thought had gone dormant. It was a dangerous delusion, built on a foundation of lies. The lies became easier. I practiced them in my head, perfected my alibis. I'd watch Sarah as I spun a tale about a late-night client dinner, searching her eyes for any hint of suspicion. She never showed any. Her trust was absolute, and that just made the knife twist deeper. Sometimes after a particularly intense night with Emily, I'd come home, showered and scrubbed clean, and Sarah would be asleep, curled up on her side of the bed. I'd lie awake, staring at the ceiling, the guilt a suffocating blanket, wondering how I could possibly live with myself. I'd swear to end it, every single time. And every single time, I'd fail. The affair lasted for 6 months. 6 months of living a double life, of constantly looking over my shoulder, of the dizzying highs and the crushing lows. 6 months of watching the woman I vowed to spend my life with, slowly dimming, her usual sparkle replaced by a quiet worry, a subtle distance that I, in my selfish blindness, had created. The end came, as it always does, abruptly and brutally. It was a Saturday. Sarah and I were supposed to go to her parents' house for dinner. I was in the garage, ostensibly fixing a leaky faucet, but really just trying to buy myself some alone time, scrolling through my burner phone. I'd forgotten it on the kitchen counter.
I heard the distinct ping of a new message. My blood ran cold. I walked back into the kitchen, trying to appear casual. Sarah was standing by the counter, my burner phone in her hand. Her face was ashen, her lips pressed into a thin white line. Her eyes, usually so warm and full of life, were devoid of any emotion, just a blank, terrifying stare. "Mark," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "Who is E?" My heart plummeted to my stomach. I felt a cold dread spread through my veins. The message on the screen was clear, stark. "Can't stop thinking about last night. Wish she were here. XO, E." I tried to grab the phone, to stammer out some excuse, some ridiculous lie, but it was too late. She held it away from me. Her gaze hardened, and for the first time, I saw genuine fury ignite in her eyes. "Don't you dare," she hissed, her voice rising now, shaking. "Don't you dare try to lie to me right now." The dam broke. The carefully constructed wall of my double life crumbled in an instant. All the lies, all the deception, all the secrets came crashing down. I stood there, mute, my chest heaving, a choked sound escaping my throat. There was nothing to say. There was no excuse. "Who is she, Mark?" The question ripped through the air, sharp and painful. "How long?" The confession tumbled out of me, a torrent of desperate, broken words. I told her everything, or at least tried to. The meeting, the texts, San Diego, the subsequent clandestine meetings. I saw the moment her world shattered, her face crumpled, tears streaming down her cheeks, silent and agonizing. She sank into a kitchen chair, burying her face in her hands, her shoulders shaking with silent sobs. I knelt beside her, reaching out, wanting to touch her, to comfort her, but I knew I had forfeited that right. "Sarah, please, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." She recoiled from my touch, pushing my hand away as if it were contaminated. "Sorry," she choked out, lifting her tear-streaked face. Her eyes were red, swollen, but burning with an intensity I'd never seen before. "You're sorry? Sorry for what, Mark? For 6 months of lying, for making a fool out of me, for destroying everything we had." Her words were daggers, each one piercing me deeper. I deserved it, every single one. I tried to explain, to offer some semblance of an apology, some reason, but my words felt hollow, inadequate. I hated myself in that moment, more than I'd ever hated anyone or anything. "Why, Mark? Why?" Her voice was raw, breaking. Was I not enough? Did I do something wrong? That question, it was the hardest one, because the
done nothing wrong. She was everything I had ever wanted, everything I needed. I was the one who was broken, the one who sought validation and excitement outside of the beautiful, stable life we had built. I had no good answer, only weak, pathetic excuses about feeling lost, about needing something new. She just stared at me, her gaze filled with disbelief and profound hurt. She stood up, slowly, deliberately, as if every movement was agonizing. Get out. Sarah, no, please, I pleaded, scrambling to my feet. Get out, Mark, she screamed, her voice cracking, echoing through the silence of our once happy home. I can't even look at you right now. Just get out. I stood there for a moment, paralyzed, the reality of what was happening washing over me. Our life, our future, our everything, gone. I walked out of that kitchen, grabbed a bag from the hallway closet, and started stuffing clothes into it, my hands shaking so violently I could barely zip the bag. I heard her crying in the kitchen, a guttural, heartbroken sound that will forever haunt my nightmares. I left. I just left. I drove aimlessly for hours, the suburban streets blurring past. The beautiful fall colors, which I'd always loved, now seemed mocking, vibrant reminders of a life that was now colorless. I ended up at a cheap motel on the outskirts of town, the kind of place with flickering neon signs and cigarette smoke clinging to the walls. I collapsed onto the bed, staring at the stained ceiling, tears finally starting to fall, hot and stinging. Not just tears of regret, but of utter despair. The magnitude of my actions, the irreparable damage I had caused, was a weight I didn't think I could bear. The next few weeks were a blur of pain and legal conversations. Sarah refused to speak to me, except through her lawyer. I didn't blame her. Every call, every email, every text I sent went unanswered. I deserved that. I tried to reach out to Emily, convinced that maybe, just maybe, this was the consequence, that we could be together now. But her response was cold, distant. Mark, this was a mistake. We need to cut ties. I can't deal with this drama. Another punch to the gut. I was truly alone. I moved into a small, sterile apartment downtown, a place that felt empty and cold, a stark contrast to the warm, lived-in home I had shared with Sarah. Every morning, I woke up to the silence, the absence of her presence, the lack of that comforting coffee smell. The ache in my chest was constant, a dull throb that never seemed to fade. I went to work, performed my duties, but my heart wasn't in it. My colleagues looked at me differently, whispered behind my back. News travels fast in a small town, especially when someone's life implodes. I saw Sarah once, months later, at a grocery store. She was pushing a cart, her hair a little longer, her face thinner. She saw me. Our eyes met across the aisle filled with colorful produce. For a moment, time stood still. I saw a flicker of the old Sarah, then her expression hardened, and she turned her cart sharply, disappearing down another aisle without a word, without even a glance back. That look, that absolute, utter dismissal, was more painful than any argument could have been. It spoke volumes. It said, "You are nothing to me now." The holidays that year were excruciating. I used to love them. The festive lights, the carols, the smell of pine and gingerbread. Now they were just a cruel reminder of what I had lost. I spent Thanksgiving alone, microwaving a sad plate of leftovers. Christmas was worse. Our friends, once a shared circle, chose sides. Mostly they chose Sarah's. I understood why. I had betrayed not just her, but the trust of everyone who knew us. I heard bits and pieces through the grapevine about how Sarah was doing, how she was slowly piecing her life back together, surrounded by her family and friends. And I was glad for her. She deserved happiness. Sometimes, late at night, when the city outside my window was quiet, I'd pull up old photos on my phone. Pictures of Sarah and me, young and beaming on our wedding day. Pictures of us laughing on a beach vacation. Pictures of us in our backyard, surrounded by blooming hydrangeas. In every one, I saw a happy, hopeful man, a man who thought he had it all. And then I'd see the subtle changes, the weariness that crept into my own eyes in the later photos, the faint shadow that started to fall across my face. Was it there even then, the seed of discontent? Or did I just let it grow into a monster? I replay every moment, every decision. The first text, the first secret lunch, the first touch, the night in San Diego, the lies I told, the excuses I made, the moments I should have stopped but didn't, the moment Sarah found out, the look on her face, her shattered trust. I try to understand why. Was it boredom? A midlife crisis? A desperate attempt to feel something new, something exciting, even if it meant destroying everything good in my life? I still don't have a clear answer, just a tangled mess of insecurity, selfishness, and a profound lack of gratitude for the truly precious thing I had. I think about the future sometimes, what it holds. It's a blank slate, devoid of the comfortable certainties I once took for granted. I know I'm going to have to live with this for the rest of my life. The memory of Sarah's heartbreak, the weight of my betrayal, the quiet solitude of my own making. I wake up every day with the same hollow ache, the same profound regret. The smell of coffee still reminds me of her, but it's no longer comforting. It's a bitter, painful reminder of the life I threw away, the woman I destroyed, and the man I became. And the hardest part, the truly agonizing part, is knowing that I did it to myself. I engineered my own devastation, and I have to live with that every single day.